Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we turn to talking about the very sexy actress Scarlett Johansson, who's done a pretty unthinkable thing for a Hollywood A-lister like herself. This week, Scarlett has been getting some flack for slamming PC culture, namely for saying acting is acting and performers should be able to play whatever role they want, without getting attacked and scrutinized by the public for supposedly being racist, sexist, or allegedly taking a role from someone else. Usually a minority who, let's face it, these kinds of pro-politically correct people prefer minorities over white people. That's where most of these complaints come from when it comes to the social justice warriors. They typically don't like it when a straight white person plays a part in a movie or has any sort of significant role for anything in any company whatsoever. And that's why these lefties opt to push for gays and minorities to take these roles instead. And back to acting, this of course ignores the fact that the public actually love attractive straight white people like Scarlett Johansson. But as we all know, the left is pushing this crap don't care about giving the people what they want. They don't care about making money or good movies either. That's why they continually push for forced diversity and the gayification of all the mainstream media, regardless of the fact that these pushes make those products fail and also they make them less profitable. Scarlett Johansson herself is no stranger to these kinds of campaigns either, as she has seen two of her major projects come under fire from politically correct pushers like this. First, there was the Ghost in the Shell movie from a couple years back, and that was one of the first prominent times that left-wingers attacked Scarlett Johansson, our girl. This time it was for supposedly taking a part that should have been for an Asian person. Never mind the fact that she was playing a robot character in that movie who was also previously modeled after a white person in the original comic books, manga, and anime. And also, there's another obviously strong argument for casting Scarlett in anything. She's a world-renowned household name actress who is a very talented performer too. Any project should be ecstatic to have Scarlett on board, but now, in current year, Johansson has become somewhat problematic, mostly because she's straight and white, of course. Another troubled project worth mentioning before we get to today's official story is this. There was a time last year where Scarlett Johansson was cast to play a trans character in a new movie. The SJWs quickly descended on that project though, with their obvious complaint, saying Scarlett can't play a trans actor because she's not herself transgender. Pretty ridiculous, right? Scarlett's so straight, she can't pretend to be a person who's pretending to be another gender. Can't make this kind of bullshit up. And it's almost like these dum-dums offended by this don't even understand what acting or pretending really is, let alone do they understand the obvious money-making reasons films would want to have Scarlett Johansson involved in their project. And to top things off, politically correct people and social justice warriors who act this way towards Scarlett, they don't realize how racist and anti-white and anti-straight they come across as. Probably because in their messed up heads, it's okay to be offensive towards us, because we are supported by some sort of made-up white supremacy or some other bullshit. Really though, that's just their excuse. And all racist and sexist people have their own excuses, and they all think their reasoning justifies their biases too. Really though, they actually don't. And a racist is still a racist no matter how you cut it or slice it, even if they come up with their own convoluted reasons to make their stance sound right. Now, this new Scarlett story is still developing and coming out this week, but there have been some twists and turns with it too. Basically, to sum things up, first Scarlett came out against politically correct culture, claiming actors should be able to play any role they want. Then after getting some initial backlash, it seemed like Scar began to walk her comments back a bit. Many even claim she has apologized or completely folded, but I haven't seen her retreat or go that far back yet. It's still early though, and if that happened it does suck, but at least Scarlett tried to clap back at these SJWs, I guess. Let's see where this all goes though, and start things off by diving into an article about the story. This one comes from Variety and it's called "Scarlett Johansson Claims Controversial Casting Comments Were Edited for Clickbait." Check this one out. Scarlett Johansson is speaking out against the backlash regarding recent comments about politically correct casting. An interview that was recently published has been edited for clickbait and is widely taken out of context, the actress said in a statement to Variety, referring to a recent article from the arts and culture publication As If. The question I was answering in my conversation with the contemporary artist David Saul was about the confrontation between political correctness and art. She clarified her stance, saying, "I personally feel that in an ideal world, any actor should be able to play anybody, and art in all forms should be immune to political correctness. That is the point I was making, albeit didn't come across that way." Johansson also went on to clear up some of the points made during the original interview, noting that not every actor gets the same opportunities as their Caucasian cisgender counterparts. Well, I don't know about that last part there. I was agreeing with Scarlett up until then though. Sounds like she was trying to stand her ground on the anyone can play any role thing, and she should, because this is still true and it always always will be. The only real reason that kind of comment can come across as offensive is when politically motivated liberals try and misconstrue it. They are so focused and fixated on their identity politics that they can't imagine a white woman playing something that she's not. But ironically enough, they are totally fine with race bending or trans bending characters when it's the other way around. For example, The Little Mermaid was recently cast as a young black chick with eyes that are too far apart too. And this Ariel character was traditionally a white girl with red hair for generations. But the same people who attack Scarlett for playing something different, well, they'll also ironically enough cheer on minorities when they do it too, like with The Little Mermaid. And that's because leftists like minorities better, especially when they're taking roles from white people, the group that the leftists clearly despise. Next, let's talk about this ending part of that section again, because although Scarlett is sounding like she's caving in a bit here, she's also making a point that we can all admit. White people do tend to have more acting opportunities, but that's not true everywhere, and it's certainly not true across the globe. Really, this just happens in America, because most roles in shows and movies and media, they're naturally based on the locals here in the United States. So that means minorities tend to get the smaller, more bit parts and things around here. Now, that's not necessarily always true anymore, especially in current year. It's just a little bit true nowadays, but this was certainly the case traditionally and throughout film history in the US. But this is of course okay, and there's nothing racist or offensive going on here at all. All you have to do is ask yourself this question to prove this point. Would these same SJWs say it's offensive for Japanese movies to have mostly Japanese actors? Or what about Bollywood? 99% of their actors are Indian descendants. But that's not a problem there apparently. Really, the left has a problem with actors in America because they hate the Caucasian people here, and they don't want us in our own movies. And that's why they're trying to push us out of the movies made in our own country, which is pretty ridiculous if you think about it this way. And this would be called offensive if we did it to anyone else too. But as we've seen over recent years, anti-white racism is all but openly accepted in current year. And that's why we need to make more videos like this one debunking this falsehood. I recognize that in reality there is a widespread discrepancy amongst my industry that favors Caucasian cisgender actors, and that not every actor has been given the same opportunities that I have been privileged to. She said, I continue to support and always have diversity in every industry and will continue to fight for projects where everyone is included. Johansson came under fire for her response to a question about political correctness, following her controversial casting in the upcoming film Rub and Tug, in which she had been cast to play the trans gangster Dante Tex Gill. Okay, well, it's hard to say Scarlett Johansson hasn't caved in at least a little bit at this point, but I say it's hard to hold it against her too, in a way. Not only is she a stunning and beautiful actress who's brought us all joy in numerous movie roles, but also Scarlett owes us nothing, and there's no reason she has to be some outspoken anti-PC activist here. I mean, she could, and she already has clapped back at PC pushers somewhat, so perhaps she could go further, but it wouldn't really help her in the long run, and particularly, it would just alienate Scarlett from other people in Hollywood. There's really no upside to her doing this and getting more political, so I do understand her trying to backpedal at least a little bit here. And fortunately, she also stood her ground on her original non-PC stance, mostly, but she was forced to back off in the end to retain her respect and career for the most part. And I say we could actually commend Johansson for doing something like this. Think about it. How many times have I asked for actors and celebrities to not get so political and to just stick to their acting and their craft? And well, Scarlett Johansson is doing that in a big way. She's opting to stay out of politics and SJW squabbling mostly in order to stay mainstream and still appeal to wider masses. This is a great move that other Hollywood types should follow Scarlett Johansson on, but often other left-leaning actors would of course double down here and get even more politically correct and social justice warrior-like, which would then make them more off-putting and terrible too. So fortunately, Scarlett Johansson isn't doing that at all, and that's why she will still remain in most of our good graces. And as for the so-called discrepancies in Hollywood casting that supposedly favored Caucasians and straight people, well, that again can be justified easily and is not offensive or racist in the slightest. This of course is only true in American cinema, and although our industry is the biggest in the world, and it might seem like we're the only film industry in the world sometimes, but that's simply not true, not even close. Japan, India, China, Africa, France, Russia, all of these places and more have their own movie industries, with varying degrees of importance and relevance of course. So just because the US has the biggest film industry doesn't mean we're the only ones, which is kind of what's implied here when people say whites are cast more in movies, without any clarification. Really, to say it more accurately and specifically, the claim should be said as straight Caucasians get cast more in American cinema because most of the audience here is straight and Caucasian, so casting that type actually appeals to them more. And when you think about it like that, it's kind of hypocritical hypocritical for the SJWs to complain about this too, since they are the ones who talk about minorities needing representation all of the time. And their justification for that is, of course, that black and brown and gays and trans too, they need to see actors who represent them on the big screen. And well, by that logic, white people need and want that too. And that's why in America, we have more whites represented on screen, because there's more of us watching in the audience. You know, as an actor, I should be allowed to play any person or any tree or any animal because that is my job and the requirements of my job. She said in an interview obtained by Daily Mail, I feel like it's a trend in my business and it needs to happen for various social reasons. Yet there are times it does get uncomfortable when it affects the art because I feel art should be free of restrictions. Johansson has also run into casting issues in the past, drawing widespread criticism for her part in the 2016 film adaptation of the Japanese anime Ghost in the Shell. Fans of the anime argue that a Japanese actor should have been cast in the role instead. Right, and what's next after this though? Ghost in the Shell was actually a robot character. Shouldn't we have a real robot play that in the movie then? And what about police officers? In the future, do real cops have to play cops in police drama shows like say Law and Order or CSI? Next, lawyers are going to have to play lawyers too, and athletes will have to play athletes and so on and so forth. And well, I don't know if these lefty radicals know this, but we already have shows that play out this way. This is called reality television, and sometimes it can be good too, sure, but mostly it's pretty awful, cringy, and want to be funny and edgy bullshit. If you like reality TV, there's nothing wrong with that either, but I don't think we should have to turn all of television and film into reality TV. In the end, Scarlett Johansson caved and virtually apologized here, sure, but she also did good by bringing up this topic again. More people should be trying to speak out against PC culture, especially now when woke SJW-based casting is really getting out of hand lately, and it's getting really hypocritical too. I mean, how the hell can the same people who say The Little Mermaid's Ariel can be played by anyone, but at the same time they also cry Scarlett Johansson shouldn't take certain roles? These are levels of stupid we've almost never seen before, and in my opinion, anyone can portray anyone, plain and simple. It's art, movies, television, and I have the sort of now old school approach to it, the same that Scarlett Johansson has too. When I grew up and got into this sort of thing, acting and comedy in particular, it really had no limits back then, back in the 90s and early 2000s. But ever since about 2010 or 2014, and every year afterwards, things have gotten more and more politically correct once again. And all this PC SJW bullshit, it really needs to stop. What do you guys think? Is Scarlett Johansson right here? Should actors be able to play any role they desire whenever they want or feel like? And how do you think these SJWs justify attacking Scarlett Johansson for taking other roles while also cheering it on when minorities take roles from whites? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.